legends, as you've seen, the old tow bar, not that good anymore, so we've got ourselves a brand new OCAM bar. Just kidding. But we do have ourselves OCAM bar, the same as the model I just shown. This one's obviously a marketplace special. She's been a little bit used and abused, but it's still in pretty good condition and it'll get us back up and running in no time. But before we can chuck this on, we've got to get that big hunk of rust off. Now first what I'm going to do is grind any excess threads off that we don't really need, and then absolutely soak this thing in WD-40 with the hopes of loosening these bolts up a little bit. As you can see here, I couldn't actually get a ratchet in there that had enough leverage on it, so I just had to undo them with a breaker bar. Now these factory tow bars are held on with only 6 bolts through the chassis. Seems to be sturdy enough. And regarding those 6 bolts, something you might want to remember if this is maybe your first time doing something like this, don't take the last of the bolts out while you're still lying under it. This thing's heavy and you don't want this falling on you. Now that we've got that rusty piece of garbage out of the way, we can start prepping the new bar to chuck it on. So to install a bar like this by yourself, what you're going to want is a handful of screwdrivers. So it's a lot easier to swing the bar up and punch a screwdriver through the hole rather than trying to get that bolt in and thread started straight away. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what's enabling me to do this by myself. This is a pretty heavy bar. I'm thinking maybe 50 kilos or so. So with this technique, you should be able to do it yourself. One thing to note on these Hiluxes and probably a lot of other models is they'll have an anti-crush tube inside the chassis, so you've got to make sure you get that lined up and the bolt through that. That way when you tighten it up, it just doesn't crush your chassis. That's obviously bad, you don't want to do that. So take the time and make sure your bolt goes through that, or screwdriver in this case. So this leaves us in a position where we can swing the bar up into its final resting place and slide one screwdriver through, and the bolt hole next to it should be free to wind that bolt in. Now another rookie mistake that would be easy to make on this would be to tighten these bolts up before you've got them all in. Obviously you want to get all the screwdrivers out and get all the bolts in and started before you tighten anything up. And I mean anything, because you don't want to have to go back along and undo any of this stuff. These OCAM bars actually bolt on with 10 bolts through the chassis as well, not the standard 6. So I'm banging all those in because obviously you want it as strong as possible, especially if you're doing stupid shit with your rear bar. So I'm putting all the bolts in. Right, next job on the list is fitting these little bash rail, scrub rail things. So we're going to want to install them. They just bolt onto the bracket we've just put on that's part of the tow bar. And we're just doing the screwdriver trick as well to make sure everything lines up sweet. Okay, now that we've got those rails on both sides, it's finally time to tighten some of these bolts up. So I'm hitting them with the rattle gun because I've got one. You could easily do this with a ratchet just the same way you took it off. In fact, some of these bolts are going to have to get done back up with a ratchet because the rattle gun obviously won't fit in. It probably would fit in if you had a tray back, but I've got the tub, so this is the way we're doing it. Okay, that should be the rear bar 100% mounted in now. All that's left to do is wire it up, if that's something you want to do. Of course, in Queensland, if you've got lights in there, they need to work, so you could just take them out if you don't really care about that sort of thing. But I'm going to wire these guys up. Normally you'd go off your trailer plug. Mine's in pretty bad condition, so I'm going to go off this tail light here. Yes, you can buy the proper crimps. No, I'm out on the farm, I don't have any, so we're running with this. So you just want to strip the wires back, twist them up if you don't have the crimps like I've done. Get them all working, and then of course you can go along and tape them up. So I'm going to do my best here to explain which lights are which. We got white earth, top middle green. I went to the brown wire, which could be stop or tail. The far left on the top is indicator, and then the green below that is the other brake slash tail light. It shouldn't matter. Now because we stripped that insulation off, we want to give it a nice big thick coating of electrical tape to protect those wires and joins and all the way down onto the insulation. So pop these tail lights back in and we should be good to go. Oh, I nearly forgot, we need number plate lights, so we got to run them down. I just teed them into the old number plate light, So yeah, these are LEDs, so they're going to draw no power, and I figured the old light's still going to illuminate that step a little bit, which will be handy at night time. Right, that's it, we're done. Let's check it out.